that into context for us, clearly a lot that is happening concurrently. The DGCA's probe in that particular matter, and of course, like you said, the black box being found are the two breakthroughs in this investigation. But moreover, as we continue to track multiple aspects of it, let me take all those questions as well as how he is viewing this particular tragedy that's taken place. Let me take that opportunity to introduce our guest this evening, Air Marshal Retired PS Ahluwalia, defense expert. So thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us here on ET Now. Of course, my colleague Samir was drawing things into perspective as to what we're picking up with the latest. But let me begin by asking you this. In the aftermath of what happened, a horrific incident, what could have possibly led to what we have looked at?
Condolences, deep condolences to all those relatives who've lost their very dear people, dear friends, relatives in this accident. The question is that all these now will be conjectures. The black box has been found, the CDR, the crash data recorder, and the cockpit voice recorder will absolutely indicate what went wrong. But till then, it'll only be conjectures. In this case, it's very, very unfortunate that the aircraft seemed to be fully serviceable. The aircraft seemed to be fully airworthy. It took off normally and climbed safely to a height in which the undercarriage should have been lifted, should have been retracted, and thereafter the flaps should have gone up. The aircraft speed would have gone up to its climbing speed, and it would have been a safe departure. But what seems to have gone wrong, of course, there are many conjectures about the engines and bird hits and fuel starvation. I don't think much of that would have any value. Firstly, there were not many birds over there. The aircraft is fully capable of flying on one engine. If both engines go, it is, I think, happened only once or twice maybe in the history of civil aviation. Bleak chances of both engines being flamed out due to bird hits. Any fuel starvation, the engines would have, actually it would have happened, any problem during the takeoff. When you are actually firing the engines to its full bore, there would have been indications on that also. Furthermore, there are many redundancies in the aircraft, and the failures can be absolutely negligible. So what could have gone wrong? Perhaps the undercarriage should have been lifted first. It seems that the undercarriage is still down and the flaps have gone up. Now, if the flaps go up, there will be, the aircraft will have increased its stalling speed, which means it could have been into a critical condition of flight because the flaps give it lift and the stalling speed is much lower, and therefore it can go to a higher height and then lift the flaps. It seems the flaps were lifted before the undercarriage. And if that be so, the aircraft could much lose height vertically, and more so, the electronic flying control system would have cut in if it is coming close to stalling speed. And if that happens, the aircraft nose will also be pushed down. And if it is pushed down, then it will go down like a mush. And especially if there is no altitude to recover, it will hit the ground. Now, this is what it seems to me. I may not be correct, but it seems that this perhaps is one of the probable and important faults. Sitting in the cockpit with two pilots sometimes becomes, I feel, one too many. In this case, what happens is that the captain is flying the aircraft. He's looking outside, he's not looking inside. The co-pilot is doing the necessary actions inside the cockpit. Necessary in the sense, calling out certain parameters, importantly, pulling the undercarriage up, and thereafter the flaps up. If he has lifted the flaps before the undercarriage, then this kind of a situation can occur.
Right.
The black box will reveal all this, but this perhaps...
All right, so there are clearly a lot of
could be a
conjectures, but in your point of view, looking at that particular aspect, that's how you view it. But while we, of course, talk about the other aspect as well, how the DGCA has now mandated immediate safety inspections as well for all Dreamliners. But given that particular aspect, is this reactive? Should these checks clearly have been done more rigorously earlier?
What is to say they were not? Obviously, all these checks are very mandatory. There is a signature, there is an inspection system which authorizes the flight after full checks are carried out. And there's no reason to believe that all the checks were not done. And if all the checks were done, the aircraft was fully airworthy. It did take off correctly. It was on the runway correctly. It built up the speed correctly. It went to V1, which is the lift-off speed. The last speed before if you have to abandon takeoff. It went to V1, it perhaps went to V2. And this is what could have happened more than anything else that I see, especially from the videos that are being put out there in the YouTube and everywhere else. So it seems to be the reason. I think it's logical. If anything had happened to the engines, there would have been a blowout, there would have been some smoke, there would have been some fire, and both engines going at the same time is very, very unusual.
All right. We'll also play that visual out on our screens as we continue that conversation, sir. But clearly the other breakthrough in this is that how the black box has been recovered. This is within 28 hours is what we're given to understand. But how crucial is this in reconstructing the final moments of the crash? What data, or rather what kind of data will investigators be looking at first? If you could help our viewers also understand that better.
See, the crash data recorder records the most important parameters, the flying parameters of the aircraft, the engine performance, and all those associated auxiliary systems of the aircraft, which means it will give you an indication as to what was the speed of the aircraft, what was the movement of the throttle, what was the movement of the flaps, what was the movement of the undercarriage going up. All these would have been very clearly indicated in the crash data recorder. Furthermore, the voice recorder would have given the talk between the two pilots. That also would have been an indication of what went wrong. So there is no doubt that 100%, since it is recovered in a fully comfortable condition, there is no reason why all the causes for this accident won't come out clearly.
As you pointed out also, what timeline should we realistically expect before any concrete findings come out? This is of the FDR or CVR analysis.
I would, you see the reading out of the CDR, if we have the systems available in India, it would be easy. It won't take too much time. But if it has to be sent to the United States, to the Boeing company, then it will take a little time. I would say within a week or 10 days, we should get the preliminary results.
Okay. Looking at that particular timeline, of course, concurrently, what we do see now is that with UK and other teams also in Ahmedabad, we're given to understand an anti-terror squad is also part of the probe, which is another big breakthrough. But in your opinion, how does cross-national collaboration work when we're looking at, airline crash investigations? Who takes the lead with the aircraft, the victims, and the manufacturer involving multiple countries as well?
Accidents are across nations, and it is important that everybody gets together with all the expertise that they have to find out the cause of such accidents and to prevent them in the future. So similar to the Accident Investigation Board in India, under the aegis of the DGCA, the Director General of Civil Aviation. We have the similar organizations in France, in UK, in US, and many other countries. So it's very, very essential that all of them put their heads together and come out and assess as to what were the causes of the accident.
Right. So on that note, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out, joining us here, putting into perspective how, or rather what you have made of this incident. But only time is going to reveal what really transpired as far as this horrific tragedy is concerned. But having said that, let's also tell you how we're given